Hey everyone, Fire here. Today we're going to be talking about a currency strat that I think is truly phenomenal. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys about the horizontal grand design city square farm that I've been doing for the last few days to make quite a lot of money. And that sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but once we get into it, you'll understand why it's called that and exactly what's going on. The premise is that rather than going in and farming only a single league mechanic, we're going to be farming a whole bunch of league mechanics. Now, I know I advertised 120 seed per map. The point of the strategy is not to maximize the amount of money we make per map. I actually don't give a shit about that. I've only put that in the thumbnail because that's what gets clicks. Realistically, the point of any good strategy is just maximizing the amount of currency you make per hour, and this strategy can break 10 exalts per hour, which is very impressive considering how damn expensive exalts are right now. And while we're on the topic, I kinda lied. You're not going to make 120 C per map, you're probably going to be making quite a bit more. 120 C was what I was making on the low end, unspecking out of Grand Design. Let's just jump straight into it. So to start with, you're going to want Rusted Shaper Scarabs, Rusted Expedition Scarabs, Rusted Harbinger Scarabs, and then optionally Gilded Metamorph Scarabs. You're also going to want to stock up on Remnants of Corruption so that you can corrupt any good essences that you come across. These are the things you're going to be putting into the map device, and you're also going to be activating the Essence map mod. Because prices fluctuate a lot, I've included alternatives to each of these scarabs. Now, this spreadsheet that you're going to see throughout the video is going to be in the description below, as usual, and it's going to contain instructions, it's going to contain a breakdown of my loot, and this is a shopping list, so you can, as with all of my spreadsheets pretty much, you can just highlight all of these, and then you can right-click, go down, view more sell actions, open links, and it is going to open up the trade links for every single one of these items, right? And you can highlight just the left column if you want. It's totally up to you. The instructions are here. Okay, so I've included a link to the Atlas tree here, but you can just see a layout of the Sentinel controller tree and the Atlas passive tree on the spreadsheet as well. I'm just going to run you through it real quick. So basically what we're doing here, we're taking all of the altar-related stuff, all of the essence-related stuff, all of the stuff related to Harbinger, Expedition, and then we're taking some minor stuff like Shrines, Heist, Strong Boxes, and Rogue Exiles. The most important thing you need to know about this Atlas tree is that we are taking Grand Design. Grand Design makes all the small nodes not work. So we only care about notables, and this is really why we're investing into all of these blocked mechanics. We don't really care that much about heist rewards and deli rewards that, we're blocking 8 things. We're blocking these 8 things because it's a very efficient way to stack up the amount of notables that you're running for Grand Design. Grand Design adds a ton of pack size to every single map you run, but at the cost of your small nodes not working. And the main reason we're doing this is just because putting tons of mobs in the map means you're going to be dropping exalts like once every 10 maps, for example. Your expedition encounters are going to be insane. You're going to be getting tons of logbooks. And you'll see that in the loot breakdown that I'm going to show you in a minute. It just basically means a lot of the stuff that we're doing here is going to be far more rewarding. Your map is going to be completely juiced out of its mind, and you're only putting rusted scarabs in, and you're barely investing any money into the maps you're running. Now, another thing just to keep in mind also is that we're taking both of the Eldritch Altar Keystones. You're going to die a lot, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're not going to die, because you are going to die. You can take the tankiest build you want. I recommended this to an Inquisitor friend who's doing full melding and 90 auras and all that sort of stuff, and he's unfortunately died a couple of times, even with all the altar buffs going on. So just understand that deaths are a part of the strategy, and you're gonna have to factor that in, but that's okay. Now, how this all works is you're going to start off by rolling all of your maps with rejects. Now, I've included a link to rejects over here, and this is just a site that lets you filter out a bunch of map mods, and then it's going to give you a string which you can copy with the green button, paste into your search bar, and then that will help you roll your maps faster. You're going to put essences on the map device. You're going to select Exarch Influence since that has the highest profit per hour. You're going to put your 4 scarabs in, and then you're going to put a city square in. City Square is optimal because you can just run to the boss, kill it, and then filter, and then that's going to prevent all of the boss modifiers from showing up on the Eldritch Altars. You can also do it with Mesa. Now, Mesa is not as good profit-wise. However, Mesa does have the advantage of having less obstructions. It's a lot easier to level up in. So if you are interested in leveling up while doing this strategy, because Wrath of the Cosmos is so deadly, you may actually just want to run Mesa, give up a little bit of profit per hour in return for higher experience per hour. It's definitely possible providing you're playing carefully, but you have to be very careful not to overdo it. Okay, so number 4, you're just going to run straight to the boss. You're going to kill the boss ASAP, and you're also going to activate the Stalker Sentinel when you get into the map. However, if you can't kill the bosses while empowered, which is probably going to be a bunch of you, you may want to activate it after you kill the boss, right? Because if you activate at the start of the map and then run to the boss is going to be empowered. That might be a little bit of a problem for you, but we're at that point in the league where it really shouldn't. Now, after the Stalker Sentinel wears off, you're going to look to get one good use of a Pandemonium Sentinel off, right? And you want to kind of do it as fast as you can, because once you get it out of the way, then you can clear the rest of the map without caring about anything. Now, obviously, if you're holding off and waiting for a good opportunity to use it, you might accidentally click too many things and not get a good use of it, which is just going to lower your profit per hour, and it's also going to mean that you're playing kind of reluctantly and not efficiently. Now, after you've done all that, you're going to find the expedition site, you're going to clear out the expedition site and place all of your explosives. After you hit detonate, you're going to run away and clear the rest of the map, right? It really depends. Now, if you're doing Mesa, you probably have to be a bit more mindful of it, but with City Square, it doesn't really matter where the expedition spawns, because it's mostly in the middle. You can usually pop the expedition and then go do one of those side loops and then come back to the expedition without really costing yourself a lot of time. Now, once you've come back, and the reason you're going to come back rather than doing it right away is because you're going to come back and all the mobs are spawned, and this means that you can just activate that second charge of the Pandemonium Sentinel right away and get full charges regardless of what type of base you're using. Even if you're using one of the special bases that gives you 200 enemies, you are getting 200 empowered enemies just by doing this. So it's really good for that. But maybe you need to be a bit careful, because expedition mobs are already quite difficult, especially if you aren't reading all of the modifiers on the remnants. So if you're having trouble with this part, do the Pandemonium Sentinel before Expedition. Fine, just find 2 uses of it during the map and move on with your life, right? Now, and the last thing is that if you're adding Metamorph into this strategy, you're just simply going to do the Metamorph at the end of the map, of course. Like, how else are you going to do it? And then you can just move on with your life. I've included some tips on the right-hand side, and we'll just go through them real quickly. So, first off, if your inventory fills up, you need to identify Sentinels and drop them really quickly. And this is why we carry Wisdom Scrolls with us at all times. Whenever you notice that items are no longer going in your inventory, open up your inventory straight away and be ready to click on the Wisdom Scrolls so that you can start IDing your Sentinels, and any bad ones, just dropping them all on the floor and move on. Never select the global modifiers on the Eldritch Altars, especially with Exarch. They are really bad. Now, the minion and boss ones are fine, but whenever you see players gain, players are gaining death, okay? Do not click them or you will die and you will regret your decisions in life. Next up, you want to stock scrolls, remnants in your inventory to minimize downtime. So this is why I've included this picture here. This is pretty much how you want to set it up. At the very back of your inventory, you want Portal Scrolls, Wisdom Scrolls, and Remnants of Corruption. You want to be corrupting any set of essences any of the purple essences that upgrade to the special ones, you want to upgrade them. If you get like 4 Shrieking, you want to upgrade them probably. And anytime you get 7 essences, you just want to upgrade that one because, obviously that's really good value. You really want to rebind your inventory key to something more accessible. So I think the default keys, I'm not sure, I haven't used the default key for a while, but you don't want it to be something that you have to, look at the keyboard and like, okay, here's I, I'm going to press I. You don't want to do that, right? I just have a little keybind on the side of my mouse, and I press that and it opens up the inventory. That kind of makes it a lot easier to click remnants onto things when you're in a map with 60% pack size. Now, as I mentioned, you can run Mesa instead of City Square if you want, and the other thing to mention is that the Metamorph Scarab, it's kind of got the lowest return in terms of profit per hour. Completely cut it from the strategy if you want and use Cartography Scarabs instead, or just use nothing. It's totally up to you. If you use Metamorph Scarabs, you will vastly oversustain your map pool, probably a lot harder than if you use the Cartography Scarabs. So now we're going to talk a bit about the loot. Now, I ran 2 different tests, 20 maps with Grand Design and 20 maps without Grand Design. I mainly did this because I wanted to sort of test out different variations of the strategy to sort of make the point to people that the strategy's good as long as you keep most of it intact. And here is a sorted inventory of all the loot. Now, as you can see here, we did pretty well on the essences. We did really well on the Grand Eldritch Embers. But everything here is kind of standard. We got unlucky on the logbooks. We got lucky on the blueprints. We vastly oversustained our map pool. Got some catalysts as well. Nothing special here. Now, all these scarabs are partially coming from the altars, partially coming from the operative strongboxes, but mainly from the sentinels I was using. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, like, okay, a large part of my loot is coming from sentinel. Not really. I was just running tier 2 scarab rewards on both my sentinels the whole time I was doing this, and all of the currency strategies I've been doing all league are pretty much just running scarabs as the sentinels. It's very hard to run out of them, and they're really cheap to stock up on the trade site if you do that. Now, I could have been inflating my data with expedition rewards if I wanted, since that's worth 3 times as much as the scarab rewards, but I thought scarab rewards would just be sort of like a middle ground to sort of, I can just tell you, hey, always scarab rewards, and then you guys know, and you can pick apart the loot as you want. Okay, you have the full Sorry. You have the full breakdown of every single item in this inventory, literally all the way down to Scrolls of Wisdom, right? And you can see the cumulative totals on the side, etc. And then I also have like a breakdown here where I run through the cost of running these maps. I run through the profit, including things like logbooks and blueprints, which aren't going to be counted in my Excellence net worth. And in the non-grand design version of this test, I made 120 Chaos Orbs per map on average. I was doing these maps in about 5 minutes roughly, and 5 minutes is a good amount of time for the amount of content in these maps. Now, in the second loot breakdown, however, okay, I didn't sort this one because I was kind of in a hurry and I needed to liquidate it ASAP, so I just took a screenshot so I could make this video today. We got 140C per map from this one, but there are a few things to note in this one. So if you look in loot breakdown number 1, I got 82 Grand Eldritch Embers, right? And they're worth 2.5C each. Now in this one, how many Grand Eldritch Embers did I get? I only got 18. I got very unlucky on my Eldritch currency on this one, and I didn't change very much. In fact, hypothetically, I should have actually had more because I'm increasing my overall pack size, even though I'm losing the pack size modifiers for the Eldritch packs specifically, right? So this was kind of anomalous, but this is what's so good about this strategy. You don't actually need to rely on getting lucky. You just need to run all of these different things all at once, and you get lucky on some of them and unlucky on others, and it just averages out. So on this one, I got unlucky with my map sustain, I got unlucky with my Grand Eldritch Embers, but I did a little better on my Scarabs, and I also did a little better on my Essences. Most importantly, however, I did way better on my logbooks this time. About like 1/6 of my profit came just from logbooks on this one. This is largely why we're running Grand Design, by the way. It's because 60% pack size in Expedition is kind of fucking cracked. But yeah, and so you have the breakdown here. You can kind of go through it in your own time, depending on what you want. I dropped 2 Exalts in this one, rather than I think I dropped 1 Exalt in this one. Yeah, I only dropped 1 Exalt in this. So this is like 1 Exalt every 10 maps doing this strat. And that's because 60% pack size is just absolutely insane, and then you're also packing all of the different mechanics into it, so you're just killing tons of mobs. You're getting like 10 maps worth of 10 normal maps worth of mobs all in a single map in some cases, so this is pretty much what you can expect from that. And then you have the breakdown here, and 140C per map from this one. I cut Metamorph from this version of the strat, right? This is kind of also why I under-sustained a little bit. I didn't run any Cardo or Metamorph Scarabs, I just left the 4th fragment slot free. I just kind of wanted to test, because I already knew the Metamorph Scarabs were contributing quite a lot to map sustain, so I wanted to see, and I under-sustained my city squares ever so slightly. I got back 19 out of 20 that I did. I got some colonnades to make up for it, which I can run at some other time. But yeah, so this is kind of what you can expect from that. But I still made a lot more money, and honestly, we could have been pushing 150, 160C here if I got good Grand Eldritch Embers. Now, you'll notice sometimes when you're running maps, Grand Eldritch Embers spawn right away at the start of the map. You get the option as the first altar that you do, and then you get it again, and then you just drop 20 to 30 Embers in a single map. I got that twice in the first test. I got it 0 times this test. If I'd gotten it, like 2 to 3 times this test, we would have been looking at 1 Exalt per map. And for something you can run once every 5 minutes, that's an incredible amount of loot. Just a short update, don't expect to see many more currency strategies out of this channel for the rest of the league, mainly because this reaches my personal gold standard of currency strats. This pulled 12 Exalts in the last hour that I ran it, and at this point, I think spending any time trying to find a better farm would just be a mistake, because it's time I could have been spending doing this. I don't really think that at this point in the league there's much of a need to want to make more than 10 Exalts per hour, so I'm just going to keep trying to optimize this for my own purposes and focus on other types of content. Now, as for that other content that I'm going to be putting out, it's most likely going to be Ward Loop. So YouTube right now has a lot of Ward Loop content, but most of it is focused on optimizing for AFK Blight farming, and it's also focused towards people who have upwards of a mirror to spend on a character. I've seen a lot of demand for budget Ward Loop, basically, or Ward Loop for mapping, and I think I've come up with a pretty winning formula. So the character you see on your screen right now, it has 8 million Cirrus DPS, it has 265% movement speed, and we accomplished all this on around a 40 Exalt budget, which, as far as Ward Loop goes, is pretty damn good value for money. Now, I'm going to continue tweaking and optimizing this for a little bit, but you could probably expect within the next few days, definitely within the next week, a full guide on how to put together a budget Ward Looper that is optimized for mapping, not AFK Blight farming. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving me a like or subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.